Hello, my good friends. Welcome to the second episode of looking at Mark Latham's quote-unquote parental rights bill. In this episode, we're going to be looking at what the problem is with the New South Wales education system as Mark Latham sees it. Again, this is going to be a 5-part series looking at a whole raft of different things, which are on the screen right now. If you're interested in this, make sure to subscribe and even head on over and check out my Patreon. Link is in the description. So, the problem with the education system. If you ask Mark, schools have been hijacked by woke cultural Marxists who insist on telling children they can wear whatever clothes they like while getting rid of maths and common sense from the curriculum. Before we get into looking at some of Latham's interviews, let's have a bit more of a look at how he's approached this issue.
I refer to the poster that I gave the Telegraph. So I've seen the poster, okay, pictures of the poster.
So it's Mark Latham and the Daily Telegraph, that well-known
impeccable
factual
sources,
basis
the
upon which to
impeccable
make
sources,
decisions.
but it's a serious issue.
Impeccable sources indeed. Latham wasn't just quoted in the story, he helped create it by sending the images to the telly, which duly put the story on the front page. And this was not a first. Latham, the former Labor opposition leader turned firebrand commentator turned One Nation politician, works hand in glove with the telly on a regular basis, either feeding them stories or providing the necessary outrage to make them work. Like this one last month.
One Nation MP Mark Latham said political voodoo theories, such as white privilege and unconscious bias, were not only confusing children, but destroying the innocence of childhood.
Or this one in February about racial training for the Governor-General's staff.
New South Wales Upper House MP Mark Latham said unconscious bias did not exist.
Or this one about gender classes in childcare 3 days earlier.
Mark Latham called the lessons ridiculous and said sexual fluidity was totally inappropriate for kids of such a young age.
And a week after that, Latham was fuming about Sydney University's decision to turn its logo shades of rainbow.
Latham said the move was another example of a bloated, indulgent, out-of-touch higher education system.
And in January, it was all about political correctness in comedy.
Latham agreed that social media had become medieval in judging people by how they look, the identity politics of race, gender and sexuality.
We looked back through every Telegraph this year, and of the 116 editions of the paper, we found that 25 quoted the state's One Nation leader, or more than 1 in 5. Not bad for a state upper house crossbench politician. And how does his score compare to some others on the crossbench? Well, the two Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party members have scored 4 telly mentions between them all year. And the 2 Animal Justice Party members, just 1. The same for Fred Nile from the Christian Democrats and Independent Justin Field. Yup, it is quite a record. No one generates outrage and stories quite like One Nation's Mark Latham.
So after all this, what do we think Mark Latham is going to have an issue with in 21st century education? In this clip, Mark bemoans that 3 and 4-year-olds being taught that it's okay for boys to like pink and for girls to like blue, amongst every other colour. As we're about to see, it truly is the end of Western civilization.
Let Mark tell the story and you be angry and do something. Mark, good evening to you. Thank you for your time. Childcare, 3 years old. They're being read a book, Pink is for Boys. Mark.
Well, Alan, this is at the Warriewood West, a childcare centre, an outfit called Only About Children. They actually run 75 centres around Australia, and they've decided in the month of February that the children aged 3 and 4 need to be introduced to the topic of gender diversity. Through these books, Julian is a mermaid and Pink is for boys, and they're trying to justify this in the most bizarre manner possible. In New South Wales, they set up a thing called the Children's Guardian. And they put out some guidelines, I don't know whether they needed to, about child safety. The Children's Guardian is supposed to look after things like the foster care system, the adoption system, but they've put out these guidelines. They're not binding, and they've been taken up by Only About Children to say that it's mandatory to read these particular books and be teaching gender diversity to 3 and 4-year-olds. Well, the Children's Guardian's there to stop child abuse, and there are many, many parents, including the parents who brought this to my attention, to say that pushing gender diversity upon 3 and 4-year-olds, the idea a little girl can be a boy and vice versa, is confusing. It's sexualising kids who've got no awareness of this. It is, in fact, a form of child abuse.
Let me just read what childcare have described Pink is for Boys. Quote, the book rethinks and reframes stereotypical blue-pink gender binary and empowers children and their grown-ups to express themselves in every colour of the rainbow. A lovely opportunity for our toddlers to learn more about identity, gender stereotyping, colours, acceptance, inclusion and diversity. Mark, they're 3-year-olds. I mean, this Julian is a mermaid, and they've got illustrations to enter the topic of gender diversity with images that can be discussed about gender diversity and a boy who desires to be a girl. 3-year-olds, Mark.
Yeah, Alan, it's frightening. As the parents wrote to me, said that their child and the other children, they're learning how to go to the toilet, how to speak properly, how to do play, how to make friends. They'd love their children to be learning some of the basics of reading, but to take them down the path of gender diversity at ages 3 and 4 is completely and utterly age inappropriate. It just shouldn't be happening.
No.
And the justification for this is
what's
completely...
the Education Minister doing? What's the Education Minister?
Well, I think the main thing is for parents to be taking their kids out of these childcare centres, for the childcare centre itself to look at the material from their curriculum development officer who's got this all wrong. There's no justification.
Well, there's an app. The parents can check it. The parents can check this only about children. Warriewood West mobile app. There it is. There's an app there only about children. Warriewood West. It's available to all parents. I mean, as a 3-year-old, the child's still learning, as you say, Mark, to talk and use the toilet. This is childcare, planting thoughts in the little boy's head, totally inappropriate. Mark.
And the federal and the state ministers should take off this centre, the registration. They shouldn't be registered to look after 3 and 4-year-olds. This is age inappropriate and I regard it as completely wrong. And the children there are sort of becoming pawns in the political ambitions and ideals of these adults who run the centre, pushing something that just shouldn't be exposed. Like if people, when they're adults, want to make all these decisions, well, so be it. But 3 and 4-year-olds, there's a sickness in this, Alan, and the centre should be losing its accreditation to operate and look after 3 and 4-year-olds.
Good on. I can't even bear to think of where we'd be without you on these issues, Mark Latham. And when's government going to put an end to this nonsense? I've not heard a syllable uttered by one Minister for Education, but our kids are being destroyed. Mark, we're very grateful for what you do. Thank you for your time.
Now, as painful as it is to take these two idiots seriously, I thought it was only fair to go and have a look at those 2 books to see just how insidious they really are. And upon getting to grips with them, I can tell you that they are absolutely, positively, 100% perfectly fine. Oh my God, who would have guessed? As a parent of 2 primary school-aged children myself, this is standard fare for nice children's books that deliver a good moral message. To prove this, even though it may be slightly annoying due to the length that I know this video is going to end up being, we are now going to watch read-throughs of both stories. Now, you can go into the description and find the timestamps if you want to skip these. However, they are both very lovely and nice books, so I would recommend sitting through and having a listen.
Today, you'll be joining me as I read Pink is for Boys. It is written by Rob Perlman and illustrated by Etta Cabin. Pink is for boys and girls, and bows on fancy clothes. Blue is for girls and boys, and uniforms on a team. Yellow is for boys and girls, and a crown to wear. Green is for girls and boys, and grass to run on. Red is for boys and girls, and cars racing along the track. Orange is for girls and boys, and popsicles dribbling down sticky chins. Purple is for boys and girls, and unicorns, because unicorns. Brown is for girls and boys, and teddy bears to cuddle. Black and white are for boys and girls, and puppies and kittens to pet. And all the colors are for everyone. Girls and boys, and flowers and butterflies and rainbows in the sky. Thank you for joining me as I read Pink is for Boys. Boys can like colors other than blue, and girls can like colors other than purple. Every color is for everyone. This is a celebration of every girl, every boy, and all the colors of the rainbow.
Julian is a Mermaid by Jessica Love. This is a boy named Julian, and this is his nana. And those are some mermaids. Julian loves mermaids. Let's go, honey. This is our stop. Nana, did you see the mermaids? I saw them, honey. Nana, I am also a mermaid. I'm going to go and take a bath. You be good. Julian has an idea. Come here, honey. For me, Nana. For you, Julian. Where are we going? You'll see, says Nana. Mermaids, whispers Julian. Like you, honey. Let's join them. And they do.
Who else feels cheated out of incredibly salacious and disturbing propaganda? The way that Alan Jones and Mark Latham position these books made it seem like Kim Jong-un was going to make these children have gender confirmation surgery while reciting Karl Marx and saluting a flag of Stalin. All that actually happened was that children were given the explicit knowledge that it's okay to like the things you like. Wow. Talk about snowflakes being triggered at everything. So we've got 3 and 4-year-olds being subjected to vicious trans propaganda. What else does Latham see as being wrong with the education system? In this ridiculous interview with Alan Jones, the two completely misrepresent the content of one specific podcast that is really one of the most inane things you will hear. First of all, though, let's let Jones and Latham set the scene for us.
The Grow Your Mind consultancy, with its lessons on animal yoga and shark versus dolphin thinking, is being funded in 60 New South Wales government schools. He said, "Is the Minister aware of the podcast produced by Grow Your Mind, particularly on the 23rd of February, when an 11-year-old girl asks a boy if he has a crush on a student called Jess? When he answers no, the girl asks, 'Are you a girl trapped inside a boy's body?' That is, the boy must be transgender because he doesn't have a crush on Jess." Mark Latham asks, is the Minister aware of how the podcast continues with a female student saying, "These people think she's a boy trapped in a girl's body"? And despite repeated warnings about Grow Your Mind, how has the Minister, you said, allowed this dangerous, nonsensical rubbish into our schools, and why she failed so badly in her duty of care to the primary school students? She then said, Mark, she wasn't aware of the podcast.
Well, that's right. And it's a huge problem, Alan, that you raise these things and 10 days later I still haven't got a response. Back in March at the budget estimates, I've looked at these consultancies. One of the problems in the education system is external consultants. We're paying these people. They're swarming all over the schools under the banner of wellbeing and other nebulous concepts, and they're in the school producing dangerous political material and content like what you've just read out. Bewildering, totally bewildering for 11-year-olds, of course.
Okay, you've got that? Now, let's listen to the actual podcast.
Hey listeners, in this episode, you'll hear the kids debate and discuss why girls and boys should be friends and why being friends with the opposite gender is actually good for our well-being. Plus, you're going to hear from someone who's invented a whole new list of rules to help create gender equality. Hey, why do you always hang out with the girls at lunchtime? Isn't it super boring?
Nope.
Do you have a crush on one of the girls?
Nope.
What about Jess? You're always laughing at her jokes. Do you have a crush on her?
Nope.
Are you a girl trapped inside a boy's body?
Nope.
Are you just going to answer nope to all of my questions?
Nope.
Well, as Pauline Hanson would say, please explain.
I don't get what I have to explain. If I hung out with the boys at lunchtime, would you ask me why I hang out with them?
No, because you are a boy. Boys hang out with boys and girls hang out with girls.
According to who? Who made up that rule?
It's an unsaid rule. Everyone knows it, and rules are rules, even unsaid ones.
Well, I'm not sticking to it. If I did, I'd lose half my friends. And why would I choose not to hang out with a girl just because she's a girl?
Because girls are boring and they only like pink things. They just want to sit and talk about netball or food. And boys, we want to kick a ball, run around, talk about Fortnite, Star Wars, interesting stuff.
You know what is interesting? Anna just beat me in handball. Her favourite movie is Return of the Jedi, and she's practically level 100 in Fortnite.
Whoa, that is pretty epic.
But according to your rule, I shouldn't play with her. Instead, I should hang out with my own gender. Someone incredibly captivating, like Dan over there, the one currently picking his nose, rolling it into a ball and eating it. Awesome. But you know what? Here comes Jess, who's funny and not picking her nose. So if we're done here, I'm gonna hang with her.
Wait. Well, let me put that to the test. Hey, Jess, what did the banana say to the dog?
What?
Nothing. Bananas can't talk. It's so funny. See, no sense of humour. Or maybe you only laugh at your own jokes, Jess. Jokes about hair and movies like Frozen.
Oh, right, like this one. Why can't Elsa have a balloon?
Why?
Because she'll
Let it go, let it go.
Nice. Is that all you've got?
No, James, that's not all. Why is it that you always take toilet paper with you when you go to a party?
Why?
Because you're a party pooper.
Dang it, that was pretty good. James, if you only hang out with the same gender as you risk being lonely. And being lonely can be more dangerous to your health than smoking. Why would I be lonely? Because you're cutting off your options for finding friendships that are strong, true, and healthy. For example, you might be a girl who hates skirts, the colour pink, and wants to cut her hair super short. You want to hang out with the boys, but they don't want to hang out with you because you're a girl. So you get left out and feel alone. Or you might be a boy that wants to play netball, but because you're a boy and you think you should only do what people see as boy things, you play soccer instead and end up being miserable and hang out with people who don't get you.
Hold up. Boys can play netball?
Seriously, James? I think it's time we took this to the experts.
Let's take it to the experts.
Could you introduce yourself and share what you're interested in?
I'm a girl, I'm 10 years old, and I love playing cricket.
I'm a boy, I'm 11, and I sometimes like knitting.
I'm a girl, I'm 8 years old, and I like basketball.
I'm 11 and I'm a boy and I like cooking.
I'm a boy, my favourite colour is pink.
I'm a girl, I'm 10 years old and I like playing AFL.
I'm a boy, I'm 11 and I put my hair up in a bun.
I'm a girl and I'm 8 years old and I like wearing shorts.
I'm a boy and I'm 11 years old and I love to play with my friends more than anything else.
Who decides what boys and girls should be interested in?
I think it's people imagining what people should look and be like.
Social media decides?
No, and it just matters if you're having fun.
In the olden days, people used to believe that women should stay home and cook dinner, and those people made up the rule, but it isn't true.
Wait, what's the question again?
I think it was powerful people from a long time ago who decided all these stereotypes.
I don't think anyone should make up the rule.
If you were a boy and your parents bought you a pink shirt, would you wear it?
Happily.
Hell yes.
No, because I'd be scared that I'd be judged badly and get bullied.
Even as a girl, I don't really like wearing pink.
If I was a boy, I would wear the shirt, but I would be scared to get bullied.
Yes, because I wouldn't care what other people would think about me.
What does it mean when people say you do something like a girl?
There's like a stereotype that girls are weak, so people are just comparing them to that stereotype.
It means you're a wuss.
It means they think girls are weak and that men are stronger than them.
Well, if you're a girl, then you can do it like a girl because you are a girl and you can be yourself.
When they say that, they're basically implying that you're not doing it well.
It means that they're probably trying to be mean and make you feel like you can't do it.
It's just an insult to let you down.
It means that they think you're weak and soft.
It's a compliment.
What do you think is the problem if girls only play with girls and boys only play with boys?
We won't learn from each other.
You won't get as many friends as you have the chance to.
If we don't share what we learn, we can't move forward.
You won't get new experiences.
It will be boring.
Boys will only know what other boys tell them and not what girls tell them.
The boys and girls won't learn new things.
You won't have empathy for the other gender.
It won't be as fun.
You'd run out of friends.
Is it okay for boys to play with girls and girls to play with boys?
Yes, because it doesn't matter about the gender, it matters about the person.
I think yes, because really no one needs to judge who you play with.
I actually prefer girls more than boys, in fact.
Yes, because you can play whoever you want to play with and it just matters that they're kind.
Yes, because if you play with boys and girls, you can learn different things from each other.
Yes, because it is scientifically proven that if a gender works with a different gender, they work better.
Yes, because we're all humans, except we have different body parts.
Just a quick poll. Can boys play netball?
Yes, of course they can.
Maybe, and depends.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
100%.
Way more than 100%.
1,000,000%.
Thanks to the experts for those interesting ideas. What about you? Do you think it's okay for boys to play netball? Press pause now and have a think. Now it's time for a story from the animals.
Wow. Literally, what the shit are Jones and Latham even talking about? What a wonderful podcast full of intelligent and interesting young people discussing their interpretations of their own world. And then these two fucking bigoted idiots have to come in and cherry pick two tiny parts of it and purposefully misinterpret them in order to fit with their narrative.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
The most charitable interpretation I could give is that the very mention that trans people exist, which, sorry guys, they fucking do, means that this podcast is, to quote Alan Jones...
Now look, on this education crisis, can I say to you, without any sense of exaggeration or alarmism, I'm not into that game, it is, in my opinion, far worse than anything Mark Latham and I have said.
In this next clip, Latham is again bemoaning the woke state of education. We'll let Rita set the scene for us.
A primary school on Sydney's North Shore is under fire after it displayed student-made posters saying, "Stop killer cops" and "White Lives Matter too much." New South Wales Education Minister has called for an investigation into how the posters, which were created by Year 5 and 6 students, came to be displayed, promising disciplinary action against teachers found to be politicising the classroom. For more on this and some much-needed common sense, I'm joined from Sydney by the leader of One Nation in New South Wales, Mark Latham. Thank you for your time. How on earth was this allowed to happen in a government-run school?
So how was this allowed to happen in a government-run school? Before we hear what I'm sure will be a very sensible and informed explanation from Latham, why don't we first look at what the principal of the school had to say about the reason that the posters exist.
In a letter to parents, Principal Stephanie McConnell apologised to those offended and said the issue should have been handled differently. But she also clarified how the posters came about.
As part of their critical thinking, students were asked to write down all the issues they have heard from the mainstream news, other information sources or commentary. The comments on the posters were not taught to students.
Lindfield Learning Village, we're told, is an experimental state school backed by the New South Wales Education Department with a more flexible curriculum and laxer rules than most. And local parents are queuing up to send their kids there.
Okay, now let's go back to Latham's very understated reasoning behind the posters.
Well, too many schools in our state, Rita, have been overrun by politics and woke ideology. This was part of a Black Lives Matter set of lessons, posters all over the classroom. The offensive one we're talking about was part of a whole BLM exercise inside the classroom. Now, you and I know that's, you go to their website, it's neo-Marxism, it's gender fluidity, it's attacks on the nuclear family, but Black Lives Matter was glorified, and as part of that, 2 students have been allowed to write on the poster, "Pigs out of the country," and another student, just as bad, has been able to write "White Lives Matter too much." And the classroom teacher, whoever was in charge, has not corrected that work, and in fact seemingly has felt so good and proud about it, it's been hung from the ceiling as a poster in the classroom for everyone to look at and everyone absorb. This is a sickness, a political sickness in our schools that's got to be eradicated.
Of course. It wasn't a critical thinking exercise where students attempted to work through the kinds of alarming things they were seeing day after day through both the mainstream media and also social media. No, it wasn't that. What it was, you see, is the neo-Marxists with their gender fluidity and their complete disregard for the nuclear family. Yeah, that's what it was.
Now, what are the chances that the teachers at that school would have told the kids, if they're going to undertake this exercise and look at BLM, that the co-founders identify as neo-Marxists, that they're proudly anti-capitalist, anti-police, and actually be honest about the ideology of this group rather than paint them as just saviours for equality and fighting against oppression? I mean, where is the balance in exposing children to a group like BLM?
This is how you know that these posters actually don't matter. Why didn't the teachers tell their students that BLM aren't saviours and give them a balanced view of the group? Maybe because that wasn't the fucking lesson? All this is a springboard for these idiots to launch themselves off in order to peddle their culture war nonsense. They didn't bother to find out the context behind the posters because that's not what they're interested in. In fact, in this case, it would have been detrimental to their agenda. So there's no incentive to look too deep into anything as long as it sounds scary enough. And as we see, this small springboard allows Latham to do a double layout and stick the landing.
And it's an attack on the New South Wales police. I find it sickening that we'd have any students in the system saying pigs out of the country. And it's just a sign of how these experimental schools, Linfield is an experimental school. There are no subjects, no exams. All the work is self-assessed by the students. It's some sort of commune arrangement. They've got gender-neutral toilets for primary students. There's rainbow flags everywhere, of course. It's wokeism on steroids. So out of that environment, it's more like some political indoctrination camp.
Political indoctrination camp. What the fuck has this guy been huffing? So, at the end of that, we can see the problem that Mark Latham has with the education system is it doesn't fit his ideology. He has a narrow worldview of what is acceptable and what isn't, and anything that challenges that must be the work of secret postmodern neo-Marxist, cultural Marxist, woke leftist activist teachers. Honestly, I don't think they're getting paid enough to single-handedly bring down Western civilization. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please head on over to patreon.com/onlydog-on-the-left, and there you can see the different kind of tiers that I've got going on. And speaking of Patreon, I want to take this opportunity to thank my wonderful patrons in Puppy Preschool, Ben Snow and Extremely Online Left, my guard doggos are Jordan Mark and Tristan Hennessy, and to A. Zeitlow, Dangwin and Jackson Orville, you are very good boys. Hit me up on my Discord, shoot me through an email, all of that is in the description, and thank you so much for listening.